bill that would change the leadership of GRU is moving quickly through the Florida House.
It would give Governor DeSantis the power to appoint a board for the utility. TV20's Ethan Badowski is live in the studio. And Ethan, who spoke on the bill?
One of the people who traveled to Tallahassee to oppose the bill was Gainesville Mayor Harvey Ward, who showed frustration the bill has not been debated in Gainesville.
Who have not had an opportunity to address it, this local bill, in their home. We've come 150 miles once again to talk about it.
The main advocate on the committee against the bill was District 20 Representative Yvonne Hayes Hinson. She proposed 2 amendments to the bill, one which would replace the governor-appointed board with a board voted on by GRU customers. She says the idea that the state needs to take over the utility to take care of its debt is just messaging.
They have a plan already to crawl out. They have met with JLAC. JLAC has given them an opportunity to crawl out of this debt and to make a plan. Let's give Gainesville a plan to keep their utility.
The other amendment would have prevented the board from selling GRU assets. However, District 22 Representative Chuck Clemens, who wrote the bill, says it already does that.
Charter prohibits city commissioners or any other from disposing of, agreeing to dispose of, or in whole part the city's electrical water production. It cannot sell GRU with this new board. We want to make sure that this is good for the next 100 years, and the only thing we're doing is taking away the checkbook from the 7 city commissioners.
Both amendments failed in the committee. However, the bill passed through the committee and will now be presented to the full House chamber. Live in the studio, Ethan Badowski, TV 20 News.